Dragonov. You killed hundreds of civilians. The legend entered Soviet Union. Clean up your mess.
Stubborn motherfucker. Unleash hell.
Izu 2022 movie. One man, unstoppable rage and Nazis. Who chose the wrong anime? Sisu 2022 hides brutal facts and insane details you probably missed. Watch till the end on J Film Reviews for the full story and secrets. In late 1944, during the Lapland War, Atomic Corpi lives alone in the wilds of Lapland with only his horse and his loyal Bedlington Terrier for company. He spends his days searching for gold during the gold rush. One day, he discovers a very rich gold deposit, gathers a large number of gold nuggets, and begins traveling toward Rovaniemi to cash them in. On the way, Atami comes across a large group of Waffen soldiers led by Obersturmfuhrer Bruno Heldorf. The platoon is destroying villages as they retreat toward Norway, and they have captured several Finnish women. Heldorf shows little interest in Atami and allows him to continue on his way. Soon after, Atamis is stopped by another group of special services soldiers who find his saddlebags filled with gold. They mock him and decide to steal the gold and kill him. Instead, Atami quickly and brutally kills all of them. The sound of gunfire alerts Heldorf, who comes to investigate. He finds the dead soldiers and one of Atami's gold nuggets, realizing that someone dangerous is nearby. Heldorf and his tank chase Atami until they reach the edge of a minefield. A landmine kills Atami's horse, but Atami calmly gathers his gold while Heldorf and his men watch from a distance. He then deliberately sets off another mine to escape. Several soldiers are sent after him, but they are blown apart by mines. Heldorf forces two of the captured women to walk ahead to to check for mines. After recovering Atami's dog tag, Heldorf's second in command, Wolf, learns over the radio about Atami's past. During the Winter War, Atami lost his family while serving a Finnish army commando. Driven by revenge, he became a feared one man killing force so deadly that Joseph Stalin's Red Army nicknamed him Koshi, meaning the immortal. Ignoring orders to retreat, Heldorf decides to hunt Atami and steal the gold, telling Wolf that Germany has already lost the war and they will need the gold to avoid punishment for their war crimes. The German soldiers release dogs to track Atami. Before continuing, Atami sends his own dog away for safety and uses petrol from a German truck to hide his scent. Even so, the soldiers find him and Atami jumps into a nearby lake. Heldorf sends three soldiers after him in a boat. Underwater, Atami silently kills two of them by cutting their throats and breaths in the air, escaping from their wounds. The third soldier tries to escape but is shot dead by Wolf. Atami reaches the riverbank using the dead soldier as a shield and manages to flee. On the other side of the river, Heldorf finds Atami's dog. Atami later discovers that Rovaniemi has been completely destroyed and is still burning. He takes shelter in the ruins of a petrol station. Heldorf cruelly sends Atami's dog to track him, tying a lit stick grenade to the dog's collar. Atami saves his dog, but the explosion knocks him down and leaves him stunned. Heldorf, Wolf, and the tank driver Scoots hang Atami and steal his dog and his gold, believing him to be dead. However, Atami survives by impaling one of his wounds on a piece of exposed metal, which stops the bleeding. Later, two German pilots land nearby looking for fuel. Atami kills the engineer and forces the remaining pilot to fly him ahead of Heldorf's platoon. Heldorf eventually finds the abandoned plane on the road, with the pilot hanging from the same nose once used on Atami. As the convoy moves on, Atami jumps onto the truck carrying the captive woman, kills the guards, and gives the woman weapons. Aino, who has become their leader, takes control of one of the trucks. This allows Atami to leap into Heldorf's tank while the women shoot down the remaining soldiers. Atami drags Wolf out of the tank and leave him to the mercy of the woman. Heldorf reaches a captured Soviet plane, kills Scoots, and takes off with the pilot. Atami shoots at the plane, fatally wounding the pilot, then uses his pickaxe to climb on board while it is still in the air. Atami and Heldorf fight hand to hand inside the plane. When Heldorf gains the advantage, Atami quickly attaches a safety line to a bomb and releases it, sending Heldorf falling to his death. Discovering that the pilot is already dead, Atami straps himself in as the plane crashes into a swamp. Led by Aino, the freed woman drive the captured German tank, with a badly beaten wolf tied to the turret, to a shocked Finnish army unit. Atami crawls out of the swamp, reunites with his loyal dog, and then travels to the war damaged city of Helsinki. He walks into a bank, empties his bag of gold onto the counter, and speaks for the first time in the film. He asks the teller to exchange the gold for the paper money, saying, "Bills, big ones, please, won't be so damn heavy to carry." Detail about Sisu movie. Sisu 2022 movie. Production, release, and reception. Production. The production of Sisu represents a remarkable achievement in Finnish cinema, combining local talent with international collaboration to create a historical action thriller that would resonate with audiences worldwide. The film's journey from conception to completion involved numerous creative decisions, logistical challenges, and collaborative efforts that shaped the final product into a visceral and compelling piece of cinema. Development and pre production. The genesis of Sisu emerged from an unexpected turn in director Jalmari Hellander's career trajectory. Originally, Helander had planned to work on a science fiction comedy titled Jerry and Mrs. Universe as his follow up project to Big Game, his 2014 adventure film. However, the global COVID 19 pandemic fundamentally altered these plans, forcing the filmmaker to reconsider his creative direction. The pandemic impact on the film industry, with its restrictions on travel, large gatherings, and international productions, led Highlander to pivot toward a project that could be more feasibly executed under the challenging circumstances of 2020 and 2021. This shift in plans ultimately gave birth to Sisu, a film that would draw from Finnish history and cultural mythology to create something uniquely powerful. The concept centered on the final stages of World War II, specifically the Lapland War between Finland and Nazi Germany. This historical backdrop provided rich material for a revenge thriller that could explore themes of survival determination and the indomitable human spirit, all concepts embodied in the Finnish word sisu, which refers to extraordinary determination and courage in the face of adversity. Hillender's creative vision for the film drew inspiration from multiple sources. One of the primary influences was the 1982 film First Blood, the original Rambo movie that introduced audiences to the concept of a highly skilled soldier using guerrilla tactics against overwhelming odds. This influence is evident in Sisu's approach to action sequences and its protagonists' resourcefulness in combat situations. The film also drew inspiration from real life Finnish military history, particularly the legendary sniper Simu Haya, who earned the nickname White Death for his extraordinary effectiveness against Soviet forces during the Winter War. Haya's reputation as an almost supernatural warrior who seemed impossible to kill provided a historical framework for the film's protagonist, Atomic Corpi. The pre production phase involved extensive research into the historical period, the Lapland War, and the specific conditions of the region during 1944. The creative team needed to understand not only the military tactics and equipment of the era, but also the harsh environment conditions of northern Finland that would serve as the film's primary setting. This research phase was crucial for establishing authenticity in the film's visual presentation and narrative details. Casting decisions were made with careful attention to finding actors who could embody the physical and emotional demands of their roles. Jorma Tomila was cast in the lead role of Atami Korpi, bringing his considerable experience in Finnish cinema to the project. Tomila's ability to convey intensity with minimal dialogue made him ideal for a character whose actions speak louder than words. The role of the antagonist, Obersturmfuhrer Bruno Haldorf, went to the Norwegian actor Axel Hanne, whose previous work had demonstrated his capacity for portraying complex, menacing characters. Jack Doolan was brought on to the play Wolf, Haldorf's second in command, while Mimosa Villamo was cast as Anno, the de facto leader of the captive Finnish women who become crucial to the story's resolution. The screenplay development focused on creating a lean, efficient narrative that would maintain relentless momentum while allowing for character development through action rather than exposition. Helander, serving as both writer and director, crafted a script that minimized dialogue, particularly for the protagonist, allowing the film's visual storytelling to carry much of the narrative weight. This approach aligned with the director's vision of creating a visceral, almost primal viewing experience. Budget considerations were carefully managed during pre production. As an international co production between Finland and the United States, the film brought together production companies including Sub Zero Film Entertainment, Good Chaos, and Stage 6 Films with distribution through Nordisk Film in Nordic territories. The production secured approximately 6 million euros in funding, equivalent to roughly $6.5 million. Dollars. The Finnish Film Foundation provided crucial support for the project, recognizing its potential to showcase Finnish filmmaking on an international stage. Location scouting was a critical component of pre production. The team needed to find authentic Lapland landscapes that could stand in for the war torn frontier of 1944. The decision to film in the actual region where the historical events took place would add significant authenticity to the production. Though it would also present considerable logistical challenges. The production team had to prepare for the harsh conditions of filming in one of Europe's most remote and climatically challenging regions. Production design began developing the visual aesthetic that would define the film. The design team worked to create a color palette and the visual style that would reflect both the harsh beauty of the Lapland landscape and the brutal violence of the story. This involved designing period accurate costumes, weapons, and vehicles, as well as planning the construction of key set pieces, including the burned out petrol station that would serve as a crucial location in the film's narrative. The pre production phase has also involved extensive coordination with various technical departments. The cinematography team, led by the need to capture both intimate character moments and expansive landscape shots, began planning camera movements, lens choices, and lighting setups that would bring Highlander's vision to life. The special effects and stunt coordination teams faced the challenge of creating action sequences that would be both visually spectacular and narratively coherent, requiring detailed pre visualization and choreography. Filming. The principal photography for Sisu commenced in September 2021, marking the beginning of an intensive production period that would test the cast and crew's endurance and creativity. The decision to shoot in the remote Norgam village area in Otsuki, Lapland placed the production in one of the northernmost inhabited regions of Finland. This location, near the borders with Norway and Russia, provided the authentic Lapland wilderness necessary for the film's setting but also for presented significant logistical challenges. Filming in such a remote location required extensive planning for basic production necessities. The crew had to transport equipment, construct temporary facilities, and manage accommodations for cast and crew in an area with limited infrastructure. The natural landscape, while visually stunning, offered little in the way of modern conveniences. The production team had to be entirely self sufficient, bringing in generators, lighting equipment, camera gear, and all other necessities for a major film production. The timing of the shoot in the late 2021 meant dealing with rapidly changing weather conditions and limited daylight hours. Lapland's extreme northern latitude means that autumn brings dramatic shifts in day length, with days growing increasingly shorter as winter approaches. This natural constraint added pressure to maximize filming timing during usable daylight hours, particularly for exterior sequences that required natural lighting. The cinematography team had to adapt quickly to changing light conditions, sometimes completing planned shots in narrow windows of optimal light. The remote location and harsh conditions create a unique atmosphere on set. Cast and crew members have recounted how the isolation and environmental challenges contributed to the film's intense survivalist tone. The cold temperatures and rugged terrain weren't just background elements, but active factors that influenced performances and production decisions. Actors performing stunts and action sequences did so in genuinely challenging conditions, lending authenticity to their portrayals of characters enduring extreme circumstances. One of the production's most ambitious elements was the construction of practical sets in the wilderness. The burned out petrol station, a crucial location in the film's narrative, was built specifically for the production in the Norgam area. This set piece required careful design to appear authentically destroyed while remaining structurally sound enough for filming. The production design team created other structures and modified natural features to serve the story, all while working within the constraints of a remote location with limited access to materials and resources. Vehicle scenes presented particular challenges. The film features multiple military vehicles, including tanks and trucks, which had to be sourced, transported to the location, and operated in the difficult terrain. The scenes involving the German tank pursuing Atami required careful coordination between drivers, camera operators, and safety personnel to capture dynamic action while maintaining the safety of everyone involved. The minefield sequences, while using practical effects and careful choreography rather than actual explosives, still required extensive safety protocols and precise timing to achieve the desired visual impact. The water sequences, particularly the pivotal scene where Atami kills German soldiers underwater and breathes air from their slit throats, represented one of the film's most technically demanding achievements. These sequences required underwater filming equipment, specially trained safety drivers, and actors comfortable performing in potentially dangerous conditions. The scene's visual impact on audience stems partly from the real challenges involved in filming such sequences with actors actually performing underwater in cold conditions. Animal performance add another layer of complexity to the production. Atami's faithful Bedlington Terrier plays a significant role in the story, requiring extensive work with animal trainers to achieve the necessary performances. The horse that Atami rides in early scenes also required careful handling and training. Working with animals in remote locations under challenging conditions demanded patience and flexibility from the production team as animal performances cannot be rushed or forced. The film's numerous actions sequences required extensive stunt coordination and choreography. Fight scenes, explosions, and vehicular action all had to be carefully planned and executed with safety as a paramount concern. Stunt coordinators worked closely with the director and cinematographer to design sequences that would be both visually exciting and narratively coherent. The film's relatively modest budget meant that many scenes relied on practical effects and carefully choreographed stunts rather than extensive CGI, lending a visual authenticity to the action. A notable incident during filming involved a particularly intense scene where an actor was positioned as a target for multiple simulated knife strikes. This sequence required careful choreography and multiple tasks to achieve the desired effect while maintaining safety. Such moments exemplified the commitment of cast and crew to realizing Hollander's uncompromising vision for the film. The remote location also meant that the production operated with a certain self contained intensity. Cast and crew members lived and worked together in close quarters, fostering a collaborative atmosphere but also requiring careful management of interpersonal dynamics. The shared experience of creating something ambitious under challenging conditions built a sense of camaraderie that translated into the on screen chemistry between performers. Throughout the filming period, the director maintained a clear vision while remaining flexible enough to adapt to unexpected circumstances. Weather changes, equipment issues, and the inevitable surprises of location filming required constant problem solving. The production team's ability to adapt while maintaining quality standards proved crucial to completing the shoot on schedule and within the budget. Post production. Following the completion of principal photography in late 2021, Sizu enters an extensive post production phase that would be crucial to realizing the film's full potential. Post production represents where all the elements captured during filming come together, refined and enhanced through editing, sound design, visual effects, and music composition to create the final cinematic experience. The editing process began with the assembling the raw footage into a coherent narrative. The film's editor worked closely with the director Jalmari Helander to shape the pacing and rhythm of the story. Given the film's minimal dialogue and emphasis on visual storytelling, editing choices became particularly crucial. The team had to find the right balance between frenetic action sequences and quieter movements that allow audience to absorb the story's emotional beats. The decision to maintain a lean running time of 91 minutes meant that every scene had to justify its inclusion with no room for indulgent or unnecessary sequences. One of the key challenges in editing was maintaining the film's relentless momentum while ensuring clarity in the action sequences. Modern action cinema often struggle with spatial coherence, leaving audiences confused about what's happening during complex fight scenes. The editing team for Sisu worked to maintain geographical clarity, ensuring that viewers always understand the spatial relationship between characters and their environment. This involved careful selection of camera angles, appropriate shot durations, and logical cutting patterns that guide the viewer's eye through the action. The film's visual effects work, while not as extensive as typical Hollywood blockbusters, still played a significant role in the final product. Practical effects captured during filming were enhanced and refined in post production. Blood effects, explosions, and environmental elements all received digital augmentation to achieve the desired visual impact. The challenge for the VFX team was to enhance the practical work without overwhelming it, maintaining the film's gritty, grounded aesthetic rather than creating an overly polished artificial look. One particular sequence that required significant post production work was the underwater scene where Atami breathes air from his victims' slit throats while filmed with practical elements. The final effect required digital enhancement to make the concept visually clear and dramatically effective. The VFX team worked to make his impossible seeming survival technique appear plausible within the film's heightened reality. The plane sequences near the film's climax also necessitated considerable visual effects work, while practical elements were captured during filming. The final scenes of Atami boarding the moving aircraft and the subsequent plane crash required digital augmentation to achieve the necessary scale and danger. The VFX team worked to blend practical and digital elements seamlessly, creating a sequence that feels visceral and immediate rather than obviously computer generated. Color grading played a crucial role in establishing the film's visual identity. The colorist worked with the director and cinematographer to develop a palette that would reflect the harsh beauty of the Lapland landscape while supporting the story's emotional arc. The decision to use desaturated, muted tones for much of the film creates a bleak, war torn atmosphere with strategic uses of color to highlight important narrative elements like the gleaming gold that drives the plot. Sound design emerged as one of the most critical elements of post production. Given the film's sparse dialogue, the soundscape had to carry significant narrative and emotional weight. The sound team created a richly detailed audio environment that includes everything from the crunch of boots on frozen ground to the visceral impact of weapons on flesh. The design of weapon sounds received particular attention with each gun, blade, and explosion crafted to have maximum impact without becoming cartoonish. The sound team also worked to create an immersive environmental soundscape. The whistling wind of Lapland wilderness, the rumble of tank engines, the roar of airplane engines, all these elements were carefully layered and mixed to create a three-dimensional audio space that draws viewers into the film's world. The sparse use of dialogue meant that environmental sounds could take center stage, contributing to the film's primal elemental quality. Foley work, the creation of everyday sound effects like footsteps, clothing rustles, and object handling received meticulous attention. Since so much of the film relies on physical action rather than dialogue, these sounds become crucial narrative tools. The Foley team recreated every movement and interaction, ensuring that the soundtrack feels rich and detailed even in quieter moments. The mixing process brought all audio elements together into a cohesive whole. The sound mixing team balanced dialogue, sound effects, and music to create a dynamic audio experience that guides the viewer's attention and emotional response. The mix had to work both for theater presentations with high end sound systems and for home viewing requiring careful attention to different playback scenarios. Throughout post production, the team also prepared different versions of the film for various international markets. This included creating different language versions, adjusting certain visual or audio elements for different territories, and preparing the film in various formats for theatrical streaming and home video release. The international nature of the production and distribution meant that the post production team had to consider multiple markets simultaneously. Quality control processes involve multiple reviews of the completed work, checking for technical issues, continuity errors, or other problems that might have been missed during earlier stages. This meticulous attention to detail ensured that the film met professional standards for theatrical release. Music. The musical score for Sisu, composed by Juri Zappa and Thomas Vanola, plays an essential role in establishing the film's tone and enhancing its dramatic impact. The composers faced the challenge of creating music that would support a largely dialogue free narrative while complementing the film's intense action and emotional moments without overwhelming them. The compositional approach for Sisu drew from multiple musical traditions while creating something distinctive. The score incorporates elements of traditional Nordic folk music, lending authenticity to the Finnish setting while also embracing contemporary action film scoring techniques. This blend creates a soundscape that feels both culturally specific and universally accessible, supporting the film's goal of reaching both Finnish and international audiences. The thematical material developed for the film includes several recurring motifs associated with the different characters and narrative elements. The main theme associated with Atami captures the character's determination and indomitable spirit. This theme evolves throughout the film, appearing in different forms depending on the dramatic context, sometimes as a quiet introspective piece suggesting the character's inner strength, other times as a driving aggressive statement during action sequences. The antagonists also received distinctive musical treatment. The German soldiers' presence is often accompanied by harsh militaristic musical elements that convey both their dangerous power and their ultimate doom. The music helps establish the power dynamic between Atami and his pursuers while foreshadowing the Germans' eventual defeat. Instrumentation choices were crucial to achieving the desired sonic palette. The composers utilized a combination of traditional orchestral instruments and more modern electronic elements. This hybrid approach allows the score to bridge the historical setting and the film's modern filmmaking sensibility. Traditional strings and brass provide emotional weight and classical action film excitement, while electronic elements add a contemporary edge and can create tension in key sequences. The use of percussion in the score deserves particular note. Driving rhythms propel action sequences forward, creating momentum and excitement. More subtle percussive elements add texture and tension to quieter scenes. The percussion often has an almost tribal quality, reinforcing the film's primal survival themes. One of the score's most effective techniques is its use of silence and restraint. The composers recognized that sometimes the absence of music can be as powerful as its presence. Key moments in the film play without musical accompaniment, allowing sound effects and visuals to carry the full impact. When music does enter after such moments, its impact is magnified. The score's dynamic range contributes significantly to the film's emotional journey. Quiet, intimate moments contrast with bombastic action sequences, creating an audio landscape that guides the viewer's emotional response. The composers and director worked together to determine precisely where music should enter and exit, ensuring that each musical cue serves the story rather than simply filling space. Recording sessions for the score brought together skilled musicians to perform the compositions. The quality of performance significantly impacts the final result, and the production team ensured that the score would be executed at the highest level. The recording process also involved the composers, director, and the sound team working together to ensure that the music would integrate seamlessly with dialogue and sound effects in the final mix. The musical approach to specific sequences demonstrates the composer's narrative awareness. For example, the minefield sequence uses dense, sparse musical elements that build anxiety while allowing the sound effects of footsteps and exploding mines to remain prominent. The underwater sequence featured muted, otherworldly musical textures that reinforce the scene's surreal horror. The final confrontation aboard the plane combines aggressive action music with elements of triumph as Atami achieves his revenge. Cultural authenticity was important to the composers while creating the score, while making music accessible to international audiences. They wanted to ensure that Finnish viewers would recognize authentic Nordic musical elements rather than generic Hollywood action scoring. This balance between cultural specificity and universal appeal mirrors the film's overall approach to storytelling. The score also needed to work across different viewing contexts. The music had to be effective in theatrical presentations with high quality sound systems, but also translate well to home viewing on televisions, computers, and mobile devices. This required careful attention to mixing and mastering, ensuring that the score would retain its impact regardless of playback conditions. Release. The release strategy for Sisu represented a carefully orchestrated campaign to maximize the film's reach across different markets and territories. As an international co production with distinctive content, the film required thoughtful positioning to find its audience while building word of mouth momentum. Theatrical. The theatrical release of Sisu unfolded in multiple phases, beginning with festival screenings and expanding to commercial releases across different territories. This staggered approach allowed the film to build critical acclaim and audience anticipation before wider distribution. The film's journey to audiences began with its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 9, 2022. The selection for TIFF's Midnight Madness program proved strategic as this section showcases bold, genre driven films to enthusiastic audiences. The Midnight Madness slot has historically launched films that became cult favorites, and the programmer's selection of Sisu indicated recognition of its potential appeal to adventurous moviegoers. The festival screening generated immediate positive buzz, with critics and audiences responding enthusiastically to the film's visual action and distinctive voice. The North American theatrical release followed on April 28, 2023, several months after the Finnish premiere. This gap allowed time for marketing build-up and for word of mouth from the Finnish release and festival screenings to spread internationally. Lionsgate positioned the film carefully in the United States market, targeting action films enthusiasts and art house audiences who appreciate international cinema. The actually opening weekend performance showed both film's appeal and challenges facing international releases in the North American market. Sisu earned $1.4 million on its first day, including $585,000 from Thursday night preview screenings. These preview screenings indicated strong interest from core genre fans eager to see the film based on festival buzz and critical reviews. The film went on to debut with $3.3 million over the weekend, finishing 8th at the box office. While slightly below initial projections, this performance represented a solid opening for a film of its type and budget. The relatively limited theatrical footprint of 900 theaters reflected both the film's niche positioning and the realities of theatrical distribution for international films in the American market. Major blockbusters often open on 3,000 to 4,000 screens, while more specialized releases like Sisu receive more selective distribution. This approach targets markets where the film was most likely to find receptive audiences rather than pursuing saturation coverage that might not be cost effective. Critical reviews published around the theatrical release played a significant role in building audience interest. Positive reviews from respected critics and publications provided validation for potential viewers uncertain about seeing a finished World War II action film. Critics' enthusiasm for the film's action sequences, visual style, unapologetic approach to genre filmmaking helped position Sisu as a must-see for action aficionados. The theatrical run extended beyond opening weekend, with the film playing in various markets for several weeks. Total theatrical grosses ultimately reached $7.3 million dollars in the worldwide United States and Canada, with an additional $7 million dollars in other territories, total of $14.3 million. Dollars. While these figures don't represent blockbuster numbers, they indicate success relative to the film's €6 million budget, particularly when considering that theatrical revenue represent only one component of a film's total earnings. Home media. Following its theatrical run, Sisu transitioned to home media platforms where it could reach audiences who missed the theatrical release or who preferred home viewing. The home media release strategy encompassed multiple formats and platforms, reflecting the diverse ways modern audiences consume content. The home media release began with digital platforms, making the film available for rental and purchase through major digital retailers. This approach allowed the film to reach audiences immediately after its theatrical window closed, capitalizing on any remaining marketing momentum and word of mouth recommendations. Digital distribution also enabled international availability without the logistical challenges of physical media distribution across borders. Physical media releases came later, with DVD and Blu ray editions offering the film in formats preferred by collectors and physical media enthusiasts. These releases often included special features such as behind the scene documentaries, interviews with cast and crew, deleted scenes, and audio commentaries. Such bonus content adds value for consumers and provides deeper insight into the film's creation, potentially building appreciation and loyalty among fans. The home media releases required preparing the film in multiple formats with different technical specifications, high definitions, presentations for Blu-ray and streaming services needed to maintain the film's visual quality while compressing the file sizes appropriately. Standard definition versions for DVD and some streaming applications required careful encoding to preserve as much quality as possible despite reduced resolution. Audio mixes needed to work for various home playback systems, for basic television speakers to sophisticated home theater setups. Marketing for the home media release targeted both audiences who had seen the film theatrically and wanted to own it, and new viewers who had missed the theatrical run. Promotional materials emphasized the film's critical acclaim, distinctive action sequences, and cultural significance. Quotes from positive reviews featured prominently in marketing copy, providing social proof of the film's quality. For a modestly budget film like Sisu, strong home media performance could mean the difference between merely breaking even and achieving solid profitability. Special edition releases catered to the film's most dedicated fans, offering premium packaging, additional bonus features, or collectible items. These editions acknowledged that some viewers don't just watch films but want to own pieces of cinema history, particularly for films that resonate strongly with them culturally or aesthetically. The availability of Sisu on multiple platforms and formats ensured that the film could continue finding new audiences long after its theatrical release concluded. Unlike the pre streaming era, when a film's commercial life might end shortly after leaving theaters, the modern distribution landscape allows films to remain available and discoverable indefinitely. This extended availability benefits both the film's commercial performance and its cultural impact as new viewers continue discovering and sharing it with others. Reception. The reception of Sisu across critical, commercial, and cultural dimensions provides insight into how the film resonated with different audiences and what its success means for international action cinema. Box office. The box office performance of Sisu must be understood in context as a Finnish language historical action film with a modest budget and limited theatrical release. It faced inherent challenges in the contemporary theatrical market dominated by major studio tentpoles and franchise installments. The film's North American opening weekend, while placing 8th at the box office with $3.3 million, represented a respectable performance given the competitive landscape. The Super Mario Bros. Movie continued dominating the marketplace in its fifth weekend, while other new releases competed for audience attention. Caesar's debut suggested that there remained an audience for distinctive, well crafted action cinema even amid blockbuster competition. Detailed analysis of the opening weekend performance reveals interesting patterns. Thursday night preview screenings generating $585,000 indicated strong enthusiasm from the film's core audience, genre fans, international cinema enthusiasts, and viewers who had been following the film's festival buzz. This preview audience sought out the film specifically rather than stumbling upon it casually, suggesting effective, targeted marketing to likely supporters. The multiplier from opening weekend to total domestic gross provides insights into the film's word of mouth performance and audience retentions. Sisu's domestic total of $7.3 million represents more than twice its opening weekend figure, indicating that the film maintained audience interest beyond its initial release. While not extraordinary, this performance suggests that viewers who saw the film generally recommended it to others, helping sustain its theatrical run. Audience polling data from Post Track provided additional perspective on the film's reception beyond raw box office numbers. with 80% of surveyed viewers giving the film a positive score and 60% saying they would definitely recommended it. Sisu generated enthusiastic word of mouth among those who actually saw it. These figures suggest that the film's challenge wasn't necessarily quality or audience satisfaction, but rather awareness and initial interest generation. Comparing Sisu's budget to its theatrical performance eliminates the production financial viability. With a budget of approximately 6 million euros or $6.5 million, dollars, the theatrical gross of $14.3 million dollars represents more than twice the production cost. However, this figure doesn't account for marketing and distribution expenses, which can be substantial even for smaller releases. Additionally, theatrical grosses are split between distributors and theaters, meaning the film's producers don't receive the entire box office total. The theatrical performance true significance lies not just in immediate returns but in establishing value for subsequent distribution windows. Strong theatrical performance, even if modest by blockbuster standards, creates perceived value that can translate into better deals for streaming rights, television scales, and home video distribution. The theatrical release essentially serves as marketing for these subsequent windows, which collectively can exceed theatrical revenue. Box office performance also influenced discussions about the film's sequel. Director Jalmari Helander indicated in interviews that film's commercial success, particularly in the United States, who would factor up into decisions about creating a follow up. Critical response. The critical reception of Sisu proved overwhelming positive with reviewers praising the film's visual action, distinctive style, and unapologetic embrace of genre filmmaking conventions. This enthusiastic response from critics played a significant role in building the film's reputation and attracting audiences. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average system and typically generates more moderate scores than Rotten Tomatoes, assigned Sisu a score of 70 out of 100 based on 25 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. This score reflects critical consensus that the film represents quality entertainment, even if it doesn't necessarily break new artistic ground. Rose Boname of Collider assigned the film a grade of B while acknowledging that Sisu is certainly ridiculous, but sometimes it's just fun to watch an obscene amount of Nazis get what's coming to them. This comment touches on the film's unabashed embrace of cathartic violence against universally revealed antagonists, a key component of its crowd pleasing appeal. The moral simplicity of the conflict, a lone Finnish prospector defending himself against brutal Nazi occupiers, frees the audience to enjoy the action without moral complexity. Tom Shawn of the Times gave Sisu 4 out of 5 stars, drawing favorable comparisons to renowned filmmakers. It is violent in the pulpy, maximalist manner of a Tarantino film bones, snap bodies, fly apart, blood leaps across the screen, but there is nothing messy about the storytelling, which is a tight as a Sergio Leone flick. These references to Quentin Tarantino and Sergio Leone position Sisu with a tradition of highly stylized, violent action cinema while praising its narrative economy and visual clarity. Casting. The casting of Sisu 2022, directed by Jalmari Helander, began with the selection of Jorma Tomila for the lead role of Atami Korpi, the stoic ex commando turned gold prospector who embodies the Finnish concept of unbreakable will. Tomila, born in 1959 in Trauma, Finland, and raised in Koikkanen following his father's death from World War II injuries, brought a rugged authenticity to the character that aligned perfectly with Highlander's vision of a silent, relentless hero facing off against Nazi forces in Lapland. His background in experimental theater, starting with the co-founding of Jamalan Theatre in 1987, a group notorious for provocative performances involving nudity and disruptions that led to arrests, and his expulsion from Helsinki Theatre Academy added layers of intensity to his portrayal. Tomila's career has been marked by awards, including the Jussi Award for the Best Actor in 1997 for The Christmas Party 1996, which he also co produced. His notable films include Back to the USSR 1992, where he co wrote the script, Lipton Cockton in the Shadows of Sodoma 1995, Bad Luck Love in 2000, Raid 2003, Where's Private Eye 2024, The Year of the Wolf in 2007, The Visitor in 2009, and collaborations with Hollander such as Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale in 2010, and Big Game in 2014. In Sisu, Tomila's performance as Atami, who pursues Nazis after they steal his gold, earned him Best Actor at the 2022 Cities Film Festival, with critics hailing him as a new action icon comparable to Rambo or John Wick. The casting choice was influenced by Tomila's familial ties to Highlander. He is married to the director's sister, Ida Highlander Tomila, creating a collaborative shorthand that facilitated the film's gritty, minimalist dialogue approach. Highlander, who had previously worked with Tomila, saw him as an ideal embodiment of Sisu, the untranslatable Finnish term for grit and determination, allowing the actor to convey emotional through physicality rather than words. This decision set the tone for the rest of the casting, prioritizing actors who could handle the film's demanding physical sequences and harsh Lapland filming conditions. Moving to the antagonist, Axel Haney was cast as Bruno Heldorf, the brutal special services officer leading the Nazi platoon. Haney, born on October 29, 1975 in Oslo, Norway, graduated from the Norwegian National Academy of Theatre in 2001 and has built a versatile career blending theatre and film. Jack Doolan, a British actor born on July 28, 1987, was selected for the role of Wolf, Bruno's loyal and sadistic right hand man. Dolan's career spans television and film, beginning with his breakout as Tyler Bose in the BBC sitcom The Green Grass 2005 to 2009. Mimosa Villamo took on the role of Ano, one of the captured women who aids Atami in his quest. Born in 1994 in Espoo, Finland, from a bilingual Finnish Swedish family, Villamo has been acting since 2003, proficient in both languages. Her notable works include Headfirst, winning a Jessie for Best Supporting Actress. Onni Tomila was cast as Kurtz, a young German soldier, bringing familial synergy to the production. Born on July 18 1999 in Porvoo, Finland, he is the son of Jorma Tomila and Ida Helander Tomila, making director Helander his uncle. His career includes Last Cowboy, Standing 2009, Rare Exports. The supporting cast filled out the Nazi platoon and other roles with the Finnish actors like Tatu Sinne Solo as Special Services Soldier 1. In reflecting on the production, Helander mentioned in interviews that the cast size around 100 crew but focused actors allowed for intimate, high energy filming. This approach, combined with Weir's input for the key roles, resulted in a cohesive group that captured the essence of wartime desperation and heroism. The international elements, particularly Haney's and Dolan's contributions, broadened the film's appeal beyond Finland, making Sisu a standout in action cinema. How many more World War II movies can studios churn out? We know Nazis are bad, how the Axis powers fell, and significant historical events like D Day have already been recreated on screen countless times. Luckily, writer and director Jalmari Hallender has a clear approach to dipping back to WW2 means World War II storytelling in his new film Sisu, brutalizing the bloody pulp out of Nazis using methods found in splatter happy exploitation flicks. Highlander keys into the gratification of watching a John McClane or Rambo hero type defy death's grasp as he bludgeons, explodes, and mutilates a roving company of genocidal German soldiers, foregoing historical accuracy as a kill 'em all standout that takes pleasure in creatively dismembering Nazi ranks. A premium is placed on righteous justice that still finds contemporary relevance as its angry messages ring clear as cannon fire. The story follows Finnish ex-commando Atami Korpi, Jorma Tomila, now a reclusive gold digger who runs into a Nazi problem while traveling with its latest haul of nuggets. Enter Special Services Obersturmfuhrer Bruno Heldorf, Axel Henny. His rogue convoy headed to Norway and astoundingly violent battle for Corpy's gold that ensues. Tamila joins the ranks of Liam Neeson and Bob Odenkirk as later aged action stars who are still badass to the bone, while Henny plays a vile Nazi villain as despicable as Hitler himself. Tomila rises to the challenge of embodying Corpys as the living legend who can hack, slash, and headshot his way through German goons, creating the same flavor of thrills as watching John Wick Cape Gunfungin thugs after taking 11 billion licks. Finland's Lapland wilderness backdrop, a desolate wasteland of dirt roads and rubble cities destroyed by Nazi forces, with the only color outside grim and muck coming from Corpy's shiny golden treasure, shades of both 2014's Fury and Dead Snow 2, Red vs. Dead, are present in Highlander's vision as metallic war. Machines boom artillery shells while body parts tumble through the air to much excitement. Sizu emphasizes R-rated violence and wears Corpy's scars proudly, turning the scorched earth objective of German campaigns against Nazis who are now facing defeat and punishment. There's nothing especially sprawling or complicated about Sizu. It is unabashedly 90 minutes of the good stuff with a wicked sense of celebration and wild west grit. It is not as extravagant or grandiose as Quentin Tarantino Inglorious Bastards, but very much enjoy being a hard boiled 1940s revenge fantasy in all right ways. Tomila is a joy to watch as Corpy, the tenaciously vengeful warrior who refuses to die. Manners in which he dispatches Haldorf's troops range from the graphic display of assassinations with steel blades to hurled landmines that kaboom on impact like Looney Tunes gone to war. Gore erupts from the wounds in an almost comical yet always satisfying display as crimson juices splatter in all directions, whether from bullets exposing brains or severed limbs dropping to the ground. It's all very sensationalized, especially juxtaposed against Corpy's tonic skull as he dispatches multiple soldiers in a row without showing emotion. Helander knows what we want to see happen to these Nazi brutes and charges guns blazing into the cathartic retribution in Sizu as Heldorf squad messes with the wrong one-man army. Sisu is one of those action movies that requires a healthy dose of suspension of disbelief. Splattery gore that drenches the camera in redness helps calibrate over the top tones that Helander plays for hoots and hollers. That also means Corpy survives what should be certain death by all manner of causes, from hangings to shrapnel wounds, or how he can defy gravity in stunts that even Tom Cruise Ethan Hunt might consider an impossible mission. Sisu can flash a goofier side as Corpy becomes more myth than man, but Helander leans so hard into the Nazi bashing of it all that it's hard not to cheer on Atami's superhuman spree. Tomila is no Keanu Reeves, but the way he is able to bury his knife in a line of enemies while also flinging gunshots during the fluid action choreography kicks around weak comparisons that are only over a compliment. The glory of Sisu is that it's pure good versus evil. In the most bone crushing of executions, there's no mincing of storytelling or visual payoffs. Jack Dolan introduces an immediate element of repulsion as his Nazi sidekick. Wolf is the first seen leaving a truck filled with hostage women while fixing his pants, which grants Mimosa Villamos Ino's a fully filling arc as one of those held against her will. Sisu is Corpy's story to command as a master of carnage, but Ino's addiction provides appreciated depth. There more at stake beyond Corpy's faithful pup in terms of collateral damage. The dog is fine, don't worry. Who doesn't love seeing Nazis get their just desserts? Especially when that red stuff isn't strawberry sauce. Sisu wages a hellacious war against familiar fascist henchmen with an added boost of against all odds adrenaline. Jalmari Lander proves that killing Nazis never goes out of style as long as you are willing to hit as hard as Sisu. Actor Jorma Tomila rages against a hateful German machine as Atomic Corpi with a heroicness fit for fable, like boogeyman fantasies passed from one generation to the next. Highlander keeps it simple and cranks the dial on intensity to produce an action packed World War II epic that thrives on a smaller yet still decadent scale of destruction. We praise a tale of impossible might, unlimited mayhem, and a Nazi body count that sure isn't stingy. Set in the 1944 ruins, dotting the Finnish landscape during World War II, the deliriously fun violence of the extravagant exploitation war flick Sisu is deeply nationalistic, painted in the surprisingly reverent iconography of the prospector. The grizzled, beard, atomic corpy, fashioned in a simple woolen shirt and suspenders, exist out of place and time when he arrives at a quaint stream. With his horse and little grey dog by his side, he goes through what's probably a familiar routine. He crouches down in the stream with his gold pan, sifting through the water for specks of gold. In it, he discovers a tiny nugget. He begins to dig holes, excavating the land as gunfire and exploding shells encroach upon his antiquated site. When he finally strikes the mother lode, the gold's glow is enough for him to fall back, crying tears of ecstasy. The word Sisu is nearly untranslatable, but its closest meaning suggests an unbreakable determination, one that seems to even stave off death. Determination is exactly what Corpy will need when on his way home with his fortune of nuggets hanging on his horse's saddlebag. He comes across a band of sullen Nazis. The Nazis are howling a kind of treasure, though these captives were not treated as such. A cadre of Finnish women, despite his best efforts, the soldiers discover his loot, setting off a fight for the mind prize. It would be easy to watch writer director Jalmari Hollander's viciously bloody flick for its exploitation cinema spaghetti western and 1980s action roots, which owes its riches to Sergio Leone's film and Rambo First Blood, respectively. Conventionally, prospectors have been symbolic harbingers of colonization and land theft. They arrive to siphon the vital resources of an area belonging to a local indigenous population. In America, gold rushes have been an extension of manifest destiny, but Highlander subtly shifts such historical expectations. It's telling, for instance, how Highlander and cinematographer Kajal Lagros capture the grim Finnish landscape, a desolate hellscape ravaged by craters, villages burned asunder, composed of bodies hanging from telephone poles. It is the thrilling subversion of the historical image of the prospector to deploy a deeply nationalistic message. When the Nazis commandeered his gold, the fight to retrieve the precious substance imbues this hero with a near supernatural determination that is caked on as the blood and mud that finds a home in the crevices of his face. The journey to retrieve his treasure also mixes with the plight of the Finnish women the Nazis hold hostages as objects of rape, their fate and freedom similar to the gold, and not unlike the woman in Mad Max Fury Road, is another resource the imperialistic Nazis have colonized. Like Corpe, these women, like Mimosa Villamo, have few lines and yet they are not flat characters, even as they exist purely as symbols. That's because Highlander has cast actors such as Willamo, Tomila, and Hanny, whose visages are so hardened they evoke the difficult, tortured, and hellish histories of their respective characters without needing much backstory. Sisu is also outlandishly entertaining most because, contrary to its deeper themes, it isn't afraid to be nonsensical. The film holds the kind of dumb action beats and inventive kills, hokey yet fun dialogue that Hollywood used to be so good at producing. It remembers that villains can be wholly evil and that heroes can be bulletproof but still be engaging. Sisu doesn't find the need of every plot point and doesn't mind poking fun at itself. The film creates comfort just by taking you along for the ride.